I haven't heard it though. It is recording. I see the red light. Hi everybody. Today the working session is dedicated to marketing emails. Has anybody shown up for another reason? No? Okay, good. We're mostly all here for the same thing. I'm going to give a quick demonstration on how to set up a marketing email. I'm going to point out a few things, just things that we've learned along the way that'll help you immensely not make the same mistakes that we have. I'm going to be going through my account in Pilot. Things might look a little different just because of the fact that instead of sitting at a college or a district, I'm sitting above all of them. And so I might have things in my view that are more than you would see. That's okay. There's a couple of areas where it's not more than you'll see, and we'll talk about that too. So with that, let me get my screen going so you can actually see what I want to talk about. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Bear with me just 1 second. I got to clean things up a little bit. I think I was prepared for this. All right, I'll go home. Okay, now I can share. Okay. And actually, hold on one more second. I want to share the screen rather than my application because there'll be things that I'll bring up that pop up that you'll want to see as well. Anyway, I'm logged in. This is my homepage. It's very boring. But from here, oh, and I guess I should speak a little bit about what marketing emails are and what they can do. Most of you, I'm sure, are aware of the automated notifications that come from the Vision Research Center as emails to you and your users. They're usually triggered by events that take place in them. So training related activities, somebody's been assigned, somebody's registered for something. If you have a due date on a training, maybe that due date is approaching and there's a reminder to the user that you're almost past due on this training, you should go and take it. That's all very directed by the activities that happen inside of the Vision Resource Center. There's also an opportunity though, using something called marketing emails for you to send specific messaging, even more involved than perhaps a custom email notification, but thing that you want to send out to your users, either all of them at once or a smaller set of them that you handpicked. And you want to tell them something specific about something that's coming up in the future, something you want to draw their attention to, something that maybe just happened that not enough people were aware of, and you wanted to grow awareness around that. Lots of different applications around communication. That's the main reason it was developed by Cornerstone. That said, I know many of you use the tool as a way to send out hyperlinks that will come into a user's inbox and let them click a link, log in, and go straight to a training. That's also something that is advantageous in a lot of ways, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. So let me get started. I would start by hovering on admin and pulling down to marketing. When I do that, a basic window opens up. Now, if I would have created a lot of different notifications or emails here, you'd see a list. I don't have that, but that's okay. I have a couple of options to the left. I can create a template, an email template that I could reuse time and time again. If I have something that is recurring, I can create that and set it up, and all I'd have to do is open a new one and make minor changes and then send it out. But I'm going to create something brand new today. So it's a new email I want to create. I will click that link. And that will take me to a new page where I add an email. Okay. A few things I want to call out. The title of the email will be for your use. It's not going to go out to your users. So you can call that whatever you want to, as long as it makes sense to you, because it's then going to go into a list. And over time, that list might grow. And if you want to know, if you want to not spend too much time remembering what it was that you built, that you want to come back to, name it something that makes sense to you and that will be easy for you to remember the reason for that email. So for this, I'll just say demo for working session. It's good enough for me for now. So these from address and to reply to address, these are actually what is going to appear in the email itself when your users receive it, when your employees receive it. There's going to be an email address that it's coming from. And then if they want to reply to that for whatever reason, you can add an email address there too. They can be different. They can be the same. They can be your email address, and that might be helpful if you want all of the conversation around what you're sending to come back to you. Go ahead and put it there. If you have a shared email address that you have access to and other people who work with you, maybe on a team, also have access to, you can put that there. A good practice, if you prefer not to receive a bunch of replies, is to put a reply, a no reply address there, and that can be made up. So it would go to nobody. If you wanted to do that, you could. So that is how you would send this out. And I'm just going to put a dummy account in. And it doesn't really matter because I'm not actually going to send this to anybody anyway. And I'm just going to make it the same. Then the next big thing, I need to decide who this is going to, okay? And that's what this drop down does. This send to menu allows me all kinds of options. And the first one looks like the one you might want to use. All users should mean all users in your primary division, which should be good. I'll say this though, there have been times where even though we've done a lot of work to keep your permissions and constraints intact and divided between district to district, anomalies happen. And sometimes an email escapes that and goes somewhere it doesn't belong. So to avoid that, instead of clicking all users, I recommend finding your primary division. That's bulletproof. There should be no problems whatsoever with that. Same thing, really. But when it comes to this functionality, it's even a little bit more defined than just saying all users. If I were to send something to all users, since I'm structured at the top of everybody's division, my email would go literally to everybody who's got a registered account. It would be different for you, but to play it safe, I say select primary division, and then click that that little square that opens up your pop-out window. And then this is, see, like I said, I can see more than you guys can, but let's just say I was at Allen Hancock, and that's my primary division right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and select it. Now I'm safe. I'm completely safe now. It's only going to go to people that reside in my primary division of Allen Hancock. And I want to click this checkbox here that says include subordinates, because there are primary divisions that exist underneath this top level for Allen Hancock. And I want to make sure everybody gets it. If I don't check that box, that won't happen. This is important when you're going by primary division. unless your division hierarchy is completely flat and everybody sits at that level, which I don't believe is very common. Then the language, and this has gotten me into trouble in the past. I don't want to mention names, but I'm sure there's some on the call that have made this mistake. It's a quirk, but there are two English language versions in Cornerstone. One is UK, US. Everybody coming into our implementation is US, but we have to actually select that. Otherwise, this won't fire to anybody because everybody's value is this value. If I selected that, if I selected the UK version, nobody would get it. I speak from experience, that can get in your way. So click US, always, every time. And it's not necessary, but clicking the checkbox to include users not using this language is something you could opt to do if you wanted an extra layer of confidence. Again, it's not necessary, but it's there for you if you wanted to use it. Okay, let me just take a pause. Are there any questions in the chat, or anybody want to raise a question over that little beginning setup of creating a marketing email? No. Okay. I'll move on. So tags. Display a list of tags that can be used within the subject and the body of the email. These are helpful. What this means is if I expand that menu, there's not a ton of them, but these will let you send this one email to many different people and personalize it automatically. If I, what you're going to want to key in on probably is, recipient first name, for instance. That's going to literally be the recipient's first name. Okay. So you can say, dear recipient's first name, and then that'll call out specifically the first name of the person who receives this email for each person you send it to, and you don't have to do that work. Big time saver, obviously, then as opposed to sending it through Outlook or using something like Excel to kind of pull from an array to get that person's name into an email over and over and over. This does it for you. There's others. If you wanted to include their last name or their phone number, their position, should you have a reason to. It's not an exhaustive list of tags that you can use, but there are several that you can pull from. This thing is always in the way. Hold on. So if I open that up, if I open that list up, I can, if I were to just start typing in the email body down below, what I would want to do would be to, here, let's just do user first name or recipient first name. I would come over here, open this window, I would highlight that text and copy it, and then come down into the editor, start typing, and then Control V to paste. And the reason for that, there's two. I fat finger typing all the time, and I misspell words all the time. That will render this tag inoperable. It's got to be specifically this this text, all upper cap. That's the other thing I wanted to point out. Sometimes we type these in and we just capitalize the first part of each word, or we do a dash instead of a dot or whatever. None of those are going to work either. It needs to be all caps with a period between the words. It's okay to drop a comma at the end of it, as long as the actual trunk of that text code shows just like it does in that list of tags, you're fine. So this can be repeated. Again, I'm building the body for everybody, but since this tag is here, that's what'll tell the system, hey, find this person's name in your database and insert it here, or whatever the data they've coded to refer back to this tag is. Like I said, there was division in there and position, phone number. Any of that is available. Unfortunately, nothing more than that. But for addressing an email, it's helpful for that. So those are your tags. And again, I can get there by clicking this expansion on that hyperlink. I also would give a subject. These are some that I've done in the past, so they are right here ready for me to choose if I was going to reuse an old email and I wanted to use the same subject. It remembered for me, and that's nice. This is what your end users are going to see. This will be the title of the email that comes to their inbox. So that's what they will see, not the email title up above. So the distinction there. Again, any questions at this point?
Can you show your titles again, or the sample subjects that you
Oh,
had?
sure.
Thank you.
I like to start with something in all caps that kind of might be an attention grabber. It's just a preference. Your biggest goal, and it might be specific to your department or to your college, I don't know. Sometimes people get bombarded with email spam, and they might even tend to look like this, right? But you're one of those people, so you're going to be able to identify something that's going to look like spam and avoid using that. So come up with something else. If there's something that some terminology or some title that gets passed around on your campus that people pay attention to, you could throw that in there. But this is, like I said, this is front facing. This is the first thing they'll see when they get an email. So you want to make sure it's something that they don't just trash can right away. I'm going to get rid of that text because I'm going to do something else to build this. But first, deep links. Actually, I should just drop a subject in there so we can look at one. Deep links. This deep link functionality, and I would invite others on the call to talk more about it because they use it from a different perspective than I would be more, it would be closer to what you might use it for. But a deep link is a way to create a hyperlink embedded in your email that can help a user or one of your employees get to an internal page or document inside the Vision Resource Center without them having to navigate. And they can get it directly from the email that you're going to build and send out to them. If you haven't done it before, it's a little quirky, but once you get the hang of it, it works pretty well. They're specific to each division. So you all have your very own organizational unit ID code, which we have set up for you a long time ago. And the system will call upon that when you create one of these things. And so it knows where to send your people. So it'll be different for everybody out there. I should say it'll be different for every division. My division would be different than yours, different than Shannon's. And that's by design because we don't want people being able to, you get locked at the door, you get locked out. The deep link will take you to an authentication portal. Generally, that's your SSO page, your application that you typically would go to log in. The system still needs to know you are somebody who belongs in the system, not just somebody who got a random email with a link. They don't want to just let everybody in. So there is some security, but it's configured in a way to allow authenticated users access to where you're going to place them by this. Always choose base URL. No. So once that's selected, move over to the right to the page URL to an exhaustive list of options. LO details learning object details takes you to the details page of a session or an event or an online training or whatever you choose. This is the beginning of the selection process. So let's say I wanted to build a link that let them launch a training. I would click launch training, which is the page URL type. We've created a library of these things. Unfortunately, that's not constrainable, so everybody sees everything. That list, and like I said, that list is very long, right? But it's available to everybody. I click launch training. That gave me another expansion pop-out window button for learning object. So I'm going to launch a training. What do I want to launch? Let me click the button and I can find something. I can search for something. I can put in some keywords of the title. I can hit enter. I could click search if I wanted to. And then, all the options that are available to me are displayed, and I can just click the plus sign for one of them. Okay, so now that's selected a very specific learning object for Access 2016, building dashboards for Excel. If I wanted to add an image, if I had one to add, I could here. I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave that alone. I don't need the link to expire at any given point, so I'm going to leave that expiration date alone too. I'm going to send this out, and it's going to go to who I want to send it to. It's going to have a link for them eventually. And then I don't need it any more than that. So once I get to this point, I've kind of set things up and I've told the system where I want this email to go. I've told it what I want it to include for the most part, but not the body. I haven't written a message yet. I haven't done that, but I have. It's in a Word document. And actually, I cheated. I didn't write it. Jessica did, but I asked her to share it with me. So it looks like this. And the reason this is handy, and especially when it's done in Word like this, is because I don't know HTML, not very well. I know that I have free online tools that can help me kind of build something that's very basic, and I can muddle through that. And okay, that's fine. The thing about this editor here is that if this button is selected that says HTML, I can write HTML code inside the body of this email. I can design it to read HTML code if I'm good at that, and then I can make something look pretty nice. But I don't have that skill, so I would prefer to build something in a Word document that I could more easily format the way I want it to look. And you'll notice there's even that recipient first name tag right here. It's all caps with a period between each word. So that's all ready to go. I've got a table here. I've got some bolded text. I've got a hyperlink here. I've got a different font color for the times. So, and I've got a bulleted list down below. So there's a lot going on. I could build all this in that editor, and probably for most of this, I'd be fine, but I might get into trouble. Also, it's going to take me half the day. I don't want to mess around with it. So I put it in Word. And then what I do is I come in here, I copy everything. I select and copy everything in this document. And then I go back to my editor. And there's a few buttons that you may or may not know exist. Let's see if I can zoom in. Nope, that's not it. Where's my zoom? All right, is that better? Can you see it a little better? I've got your font here, or that's foreground color. Here's your font. Here's your type size. Your formatting options for normal or heading. This is all pretty standard across the top. I can print something if I choose to, and it seems odd. I can undo something if I make a mistake and I don't want to see it. But here's a paste button, which would be great. If I had a big text document, I could just paste it all in here. I have a Word document, and that's a little different. So the button right next to it is paste options. And if I open that up, you can see I've got some more specific options available to me, one of which is, well, paste as HTML, which would be great, but I don't know. I didn't build it in HTML in an HTML editor, so I don't want to do that. I did build it in Word. I know what it looks like in Word, so I'm going to say paste from Word. It opens up this box and it says Control V. Important to do that. Don't just come in here and right click. Put your cursor inside this box and hit Control V after you've already copied it from the Word doc, and then you'll see it looks more or less like what I made in that Word doc. It's got the font color I want. Here's that hyperlink. The tag comes over as it would, as you would expect. I've got the bulleted list down here. Doesn't look great. Maybe I'm going to have to take a look at that once it drops into the body here. We'll see what that looks like. So I've got this. I think it's okay. I'm going to hit paste. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, there. The bullets are back. So I'm pretty happy with that. I might want to play around with the sizing. I don't know. I think this looks good though. I like it. So I just saved myself literally hours of work and a headache. So anyway, there's other buttons up here too that are helpful. There's a spell checker. There is a document manager, which might also work well for you if you're saving images or PDF documents or something like that that you want to send out, that you want to add in here. I believe you probably all have access to this because you all have folders in here. And I don't believe we've built those for you. In fact, if I look at LACCD, it appears, yeah, see, it looks like Shannon's already put stuff in here, unless she sent us a request. So yes, Shannon's nodding her head. So you guys have access to this. So remember, you will see all of these files in here. So make sure so that you can find it, that when you go to upload this button here, your document into this manager, click the upload, but make sure first you're in the right folder that you want to be in. Otherwise, you might send something to the Chancellor's office folder and never find it again because you didn't realize you made that mistake.
Or just the VRC folder. Sometimes your eyes
or just the
go right
VRC
there.
folder. Yes. Hold on one second. Something. I apologize. Hold on one sec.
So Krista had asked, I'm just gonna fill in while Brian steps away. Krista had asked about what kind of documents go in the folder. So these would be things that you want to put in your email. I usually have images is what I use this more for because I use a lot of images in our marketing emails and such. So you have to put the images in there so it's housed in the Vision Resource Center so that when it sends the email out, the image is in a place where it can be pulled from, if that makes sense, right? Have you ever clicked on something and it's like that image is no longer available? It's because somehow it's not linked properly through the whatever they use to send the email.
Okay, sorry about that. Kid just got dropped off and I wasn't expecting that, so life. Were there any questions about the document manager? I haven't actually shown anybody how to do it, but
Can you just show again, where did you locate the document manager? I missed that.
no problem. It's in this middle row and it's this icon. It's hard to see, these buttons are very small, but if you hover over them, they tell you what they are. And it's the document with a red paper clip over the top of it. You click that button and the document manager opens up, and then you have this file directory open to you. You would select the folder. You wish to place something in. And then you click this upload button. It's kind of hidden because of zoomed in, but it's a button that says upload. It's got a green plus sign. You click that, and then it allows you to search for documents in your local environment or in your network that you've saved somewhere else. You would select a document here, and then it's got a max file size of 3 megabyte. And then, yeah, you could overwrite if you're updating an existing document and you wanted to put the new version in. You check this box to overwrite what you have there that's old. And then you'd click this upload button down here. And then it would save that document. You could pull it into any email in the future if you have the need. So that is also available to you. What else?
Brian, I just wanted to note that if they don't see a folder in there for their district or college, they should create one.
Yes, very true. Okay, so I've been creating stuff. You know, there's I can bold stuff here, underline. I can align things the way I wish to. I can drop a hyperlink in manually if I want to do it that way. So all of the things that I've done in Word are available to me here as well. I find it's easier to work in Word. It's just how I do it. Again, if I was really good at writing HTML code, I could just do that here. That's not me. So you'll notice I toggled between a designer view, which shows me as a person what it looks like, to HTML view, which I'd be in if I was a coder or a developer. I've got a preview button here that'll let me just see what it would render like. Usually it's very similar to design. And so that's how I've built it. I'm done building now. I've given it a title. I've told it who I want to send this email to. I've built the email. I've added any elements that I want inside of it. It's ready to send. When I do these, I always send myself a test first. I want to know what it looks like. I want to make sure I didn't miss something. And usually I can notice that better if I'm using myself as a recipient, because it's easy to miss things when you're creating something that you then see when you're consuming whatever you've built after the fact. Also, it's a necessary step if you're building a deep link in. You need to receive that deep link that's been crafted by the system first in order to send it out, if you're copying and pasting. So I will always give myself enough time to build something and then send a test, edit the test if I need to, and still have enough time in the day to send out the final product, right? So I'm not gonna start this whole process like an hour before I'm set to go. I'm not setting myself up for success that way. Invariably, that's going to cause a mistake, and I'm going to get angry and have to stay late. I want to avoid that, so I'm going to give myself plenty of time. I'm going to build it, and down here I'm going to schedule the send date, and I can open the calendar view and I can select today or a day in the future. Can't go in the past. And then the time selector is really important because the processing isn't always instantaneous. Sometimes there's a delay, and like a lot of things in the Vision Resource Center, the delay is based on network traffic or bandwidth at that given time. So there might be a lot of things happening on my network. This might get slowed down. And if I'm too close, like right now it's 2:39. So realistically, if it's 2:39, I can choose 1 o'clock and I'm totally safe there. 21 minutes is plenty of time. I give myself at least 15 minutes. I'm going to cut it off at that point. If it were say 2:48, then I'm not going to select 3 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and select 3:30 because I want to make sure there's enough time for this to send out to everybody it needs to go to. And especially with the larger audiences that you send to, give it more time, not less. So I always give it at least 15 minutes. If I'm past the cutoff for that next half-hour allotment, and no, we cannot change these to be whatever we want them to be. It is every half hour. I'm just going to move it up. So, like I said, let's just assume it was 10 minutes in the future. It's 2:50. I'm going to wait till 3 o'clock. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do 3 o'clock. I'm going to wait till 3:30. So I'm going to select that. I would save it. It refreshed. So I would save this at this point. And I don't think I'm not going to, it's pilot. It wouldn't go out anyway, but I'm still not going to save it. just an extra caution. Once I save it, it'll go into a queue and it'll sit in that queue until the time that I've said to send it, 3:30 on today. Like I said, if it's too close, it might not send. If I didn't select English US, it won't send. If my what's the other one is the send to category, your group of people. And by the way, I didn't mention it before, but shoot, that's not the one. If I, you're in the way again. Come on. Okay, sorry about that. If I, instead of selecting primary division, I can select a group. That can be really useful. I can create a group for any reason, and I can put exactly who I want in that group. I can base a group on who hasn't completed a specific training, and the system itself will populate that group and change it daily based on who hasn't completed that training yet. So I could build one of these into a template that I repeat every single day, and just, it's going to refresh that group for me. And whoever still hasn't taken that training is going to get it. If they took it yesterday, they won't get this one. So group can be pretty useful to use as recipient criteria. It just depends on what your goal is. All right. Yeah, so once you get to the save, like I said, it's always going to be me first. So actually this criteria, I'm going to delete it. What it would look like first would just be, I'd come down to users. That's the selection you want to make if you just want individuals and you want to select them individually. But I'm just going to say my last name, and it's going to give me two options. That's my admin account. I don't want that. I want the real me. So I'd select that. And here I am. And that's going to send it to my email inbox first without going to anybody else. And that way I can check it, make sure it looks exactly the way I want it to. And it's just going to wait in the queue until the right time at that point. Unfortunately, I'm going to cancel this. There was one other thing I wanted to show you, but I'm not actually able to because I don't have any here. Perhaps somebody else on the call who can share the queue can take a look and show them the log, the Excel
I can do
log
that.
that you can export. Okay, I'll go ahead and stop sharing. While Shannon's getting set up, are there any questions about anything I just went over?
Brian, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Because of the timing, do you ever set your time as soon as you start? Because it might take you longer to set it up. Or-
No, because there's been enough times where it's taken me longer to build it than I thought. I don't want to, and this actually has happened. Like I set a time and then it took longer than I thought it would to make it. And then it didn't fire after I was all done. And I didn't know.
Do you set it though, like for a future date? Like
I
sometimes I'll
do.
set
I
mine-
always set it out for like a week out, and I always set it just to myself.
Yeah, you can totally do that.
Just to
Totally.
get like, just because I've accidentally sent stuff to the whole district before and it's like the wrong person and it's. Or like I've sent just a deep link to the whole district and it was a calamity. So I've become very OCD about it, like where I only set everything to me and I set it way into the future. And then once I've saved it and I know it's ready, then I go back and change those things.
Okay, thank you.
That's just based on prior trauma.
I've noticed that when I have mine, like when I first start creating it, it defaults to whatever the closest 30 minutes is. And if I finish after that has passed, it won't let me save it. It'll say I can't send it in the past and it'll make me
Oh.
change the time anyway.
Oh.
So then it, like it kind of foolproof because you can't actually save it to send if the time has already passed.
I must be fairly recent in the last couple of years.
So you want me to show the call or the sent log?
Yeah.
So this is a robust list of 1,400 emails that we sent out of LACCD using this system. Largely because of deep links. But this is, so you can click here on the Excel thing to see, that's what you're talking about, Brian, right?
Yep, exactly.
What's been sent. And so here's an example of what that might look like. So it'll tell you who received it and when it was sent and what the subject was.
Yeah, this is handy for a couple of reasons. For one, it's just a good sanity check for you, like if you've got a really important message you want to get out, you want to make sure it went, right? And the other thing that we've used it for is sometimes IT, bless their heart, has disabled certain, well, no, they've installed new security software that then went and blocked every application that they didn't specifically call out as okay. And that happens to the Vision Resource Center sometimes. So sometimes you will have done everything right and sent your message and nobody got it. Or maybe some people got it, but not everybody, because maybe once upon a time that individual spammed one of your messages and they say, nope, I never got it. You can pull up that log and say, well, I sent it to you to this email address on this date at this time. So look into that. You got it. Here's another copy, by the way, but double check your spam folder. Make sure that you don't block these messages coming from me. If you need to talk to IT, make sure that they've whitelisted the IP addresses for Cornerstone. Go ahead and do so. I believe the document needed for that is in the community. If it's not, if you can't find it, let me know and I will make sure to put it in a very findable place.
Brian, I wanted to add to that. I have made the mistake of not being aware of when updates are happening to the Vision Resource Center, and it will stop your email. So it might start, but if it starts an update during a send, it'll stop. So I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, that's a good call out. So sometimes your message is going to a lot of people. Like I said before, that's going to take a lot of time to process. In Alejandra's case, that happened to coincide with a maintenance update from Cornerstone that basically locked the system down and stopped all traffic. So half of her list, or roughly, didn't get it. So we had to take a look at that. The same thing can be said for just internet connectivity. There are times where your network's bad and the process gets so far along and then fails because it dropped. It's just like it's just like launching an online course in a bad network connectivity time. If you've got a lot of latency, sometimes the call is just going to drop. So those are things that can happen. It's not that it never happens. It can happen. It's just rare. It doesn't happen very often. There's a lot. I mean, tens of thousands of emails coming out of the Vision Resource Center, and the vast majority land exactly where they're supposed to. It's kind of incredible. Kind of scary too.
Brian?
Yep.
One thing I wanted to point out too is that marketing emails are also what's used for when you send direct emails from within a session or custom, like a learning, well, maybe learning assignment isn't that, but anyway, when you go to click on a roster that says, email registered participants, it's not really super obvious that you've moved over into marketing emails. And
Yeah.
the same rule applies with that 30-minute thing. So if you're trying to quickly email somebody a last minute change to the session, they're not going to get it quickly. They're going to get it on the 30 minutes. So if you send it at 12:01, it's not going to fire until 12:30. And that's not something that's real apparent from that screen. It's not as foolproof, I think, for when you do it from there is when you go directly into marketing to send an email. So you'll see logs of any emails that you've sent in other areas of the system will also show up in your list of sent emails in marketing. And you
Isn't it?
can,
Yeah, that's a great point. And it reminds me of something else I wanted to bring up. And I meant to show this when I was demoing, but I didn't. So if I'm creating a new email, and what Jessica said is you'll be dropped into this screen, right? You'll click that button that says custom email or whatever, and it'll just take you here. When I'm on this page and I get stuck, there's two things I can do. One is there's a terrible little link that's very well hidden here, but it says click here for help. And it opens a very brief document that gives you some instructions and some explanation of what you're doing. There's a little paragraph on tags, for instance. So that's there. It's not terribly helpful, but what is actually behind the gear icon is if I click help, while I'm already on that page creating an email, it's going to open the article for creating a marketing email. This is very helpful. There's a lot of information in here. And actually, one thing I wanted to call out, because I just noticed how much they've expanded it recently. It breaks down the parts of the email of that window and gives a lot of description about that. But if I scroll way down here to the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, editor tool considerations. This is a lot of what frustrates us when we try to create a marketing email. There are limitations to that editor, and Cornerstone actually has done a pretty good job of describing what they are here. I don't know if every last up to the minute limitation is listed here, but I'd be willing to bet most of them are. And then it gets into known browser limitations, which is it's just one of the frustrating parts about life and software. There's alternate browsers that you can use. You can use Chrome, you can use Firefox, you can use Internet Explorer. They all have their advantages and drawbacks. And there's not real tight standards all the time on how they operate with other applications. So the behavior is not always known, especially by us. Like we never quite understand if I'm going to send it, are my users going to be using Internet Explorer or are they going to be using Chrome? That's going to change sometimes how they view what's coming their way or how they see certain elements of the Vision Resource Center even. So it's always nice if you see something like this in a help article, just give it a skim. Check it out. There might be things that you've heard from your employees that are gripes and you just had no clue about, but you might hear it more than once. And so you might it might trigger a memory that you see it in here and you go, oh, so-and-so was talking about that. Okay, so it's about the browser. Okay, so that means I might need to talk to people about browsers when it's something related to this specific thing, just so they have a heads up if they need to update their version, clear their cache, if they need to actually select to download the images before they'll see them, stuff like that. Anyway, just a reminder that help is here.
So a couple of good questions that came up in the chat, Brian. So one is that Krista was actually in creating an email template, and that's why she couldn't see the sending and all that. So if you create an email template, you have to create the template, and open that template and create the actual email to send to people. So that's one piece. Another thing is she also noticed that she had a couple of windows open. If you have multiple windows open, I know at least for Chrome, and they're all logged into the Vision Resource Center, something weird happens in the marketing one, for me at least. When I save it, it kicks me to another window in the Vision Resource Center. That only happens when I have multiple windows open. So I always panic and go back and copy everything and make sure it's saved. And then another one, Alejandra asked about how the deep links, if you create a deep link in a new email, is that a shareable link that you can cut and paste, or does the deep link need to be sent? So great. I think you're asking because you know, but you want us to talk about it, which is, if you didn't mention that, Brian, maybe reinforcing that, not to just create, don't copy what happened in the email editor, but they actually have to send it and receive it in their email for it to be an active deep link.
So another great reason, especially, you always want to send something to yourself first. I mean, just to save yourself the heartache of making a mistake very publicly. But yeah, if you're using deep links, it's pretty much mandatory. You have to receive that email first, because what happens is it takes that metadata that's embedded into the hyperlink, that right there.
Yeah, so don't copy this.
You can build it in this tool, but you can't copy it from here and then put it in an email that you're sending through Outlook or something like that. It won't work. There's still more translation that the system needs to do to that link to make it active for your users. So you have to send it to yourself in order to copy it. Now, Shannon's done that. She sent herself a link that she built in marketing email. Now that she's received it as somebody on the other side of the transaction, she can then copy this link and share it any way she wants to, and it'll be active for somebody that way. She can put it on a website. She can send it in an email. She can forward this email to somebody. She could copy this and then repaste it back into the body of an email that she had already built in marketing. Yeah, you do have to send yourself the link once you build it first. So it's just easy, since you know you want to edit it by receiving it first. Put your deep links in there with your email, send it to yourself, copy that into a new version, and then send that new version. Great point. Thank you, Alejandra.
Something else I learned the hard way.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people learn the hard way, and that it's usually either they did that or they forgot to put the drop down as the what's the drop down called? Base URL. That's the downfall of everyone, right? Jackie's nodding.
Yep.
Everyone's done that. You didn't select base URL. So right here, this is where the downfall of if your link isn't working, it's because you didn't click base URL. That's the 99% of the time. So that's really important.
Okay. I think that's all we have time for, actually. I know I got to run.
Krista's got a question. She's got her hand up.
Oh,
Real quick, is this tool that you taught us today available to everyone? For example, if division chairs want to create something for their meetings, because there is faculty interest in wanting a deep link to like a division meeting so it tracks on their transcript.
no, I believe that these permissions are available to admins. You're the ones that have access to your entire user base, but nobody else does.
But you can generate a deep link, and instead of sending it to yourself, send it to the department chair.
And they can use that the whole
And
semester.
they'll use it. Yep.
And it's people who are listed as an instructor for a session can email people that are registered on the roster for that session, but they can't get deep links. It would just be emails directly to people that are signed up for whatever they're hosting.
So I create the deep link through like the email template and then just save it, like English division meeting, math.
Well,
division
what I would do for that case, I would create a deep link to the event called chemistry department whatevers, and then every time you create a session of it, then they can reuse that link and it will take them to the list of all of them. That's how I would do it. So you're not always generating a new deep link to each individual meeting. We can talk about tomorrow.
All right, tomorrow. Sure. Thank you.
We're gonna have a busy day tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Does that do it? I think it probably does, at least for me. Well,
Thanks, Brian.
thank you all very much for showing up. I hope you got a lot out of it.